Morant with a running start. Elevates. Oh, it dunks. Oh, my goodness.
Tie game in overtime. Gasol will turn his heat. It's gone. Memphis on top. 7-10 remaining. Conley now with three. Count it. A 15-point lead for Memphis. And Blake Griffin gets into it on the floor with Randolph. Hard to tell if there are any punches being thrown under there, but Griffin took acceptance.
Adams going long. Morant. He hit it. John Morant. Insanity.
You gotta be kidding me.
Welcome to Grits and Grinds, a Memphis Grizzlies podcast. Grizzlies win edition. My name is Keith Parrish. It was a wild weekend for the Grizzlies. They lost on home on Friday night. A horrible loss to a Jazz team that can seemingly only beat the Grizzlies. Taylor Jenkins went on a post-game rant about the officiating that ended up costing him $25,000. Then the Grizzlies headed out on a road trip, went to LA, and they upset the Clippers on Sunday afternoon. So on this episode, I'm going to talk about both of those games in detail. But before I do, just want to tell you about Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Fantasy is a unique way to play fantasy sports for cash. I play it just about every day during the NBA season. I play in these small stakes tournaments or drafts that I do with my Patreon supporters. You can play against strangers. You can play against your friends. I really enjoy them. You just draft your team for the night and play either head-to-head or in a group of 3 or 5 or 10 people, whatever you want to do. Plus, you can play their higher or lowers and really see your winnings add up. If that sounds interesting to you, it's a great time to sign up for Underdog Fantasy because if you use that promo code FBBF, or use the link in this episode's description, Underdog Fantasy will match your opening deposit up to $500. So if you want to try out Underdog Fantasy, remember, use that promo code FBBF. Okay, so a lot of things happened in these two games. I think outside of the Grizzlies getting this needed win to improve to 2-8, maybe the biggest storyline is just the fact that Jacob Gilyard started both games. Gilyard's been playing well as the starter. I'm going to get into all the games, but like that sticks out in my head is just something I never saw coming. And I had my doubts about Jacob Gilyard as a basketball player. He's been great so far. I think a lot of that speaks to just general roster building in the NBA where it's not necessarily the talent you add, it's the fit. And this Grizzlies roster just needed somebody to dribble and play make. And so far, Gilyard has been up to the task. So I think that's super interesting. I'll come back to talk more about Jacob Gilyard's performances in the last two games. But overall, I find that super interesting. And like before I get into the officiating in the Jazz game and before I get to the fun of the win over the Clippers, like just thinking about that where we spent so much time discussing like who's the fifth starter going to be when Ja Morant is unavailable. And I didn't call Jacob Gilyard starting. The furthest from it. I questioned him being on the roster in the offseason. I assumed that position would get replaced. But Jacob Gilyard has proven me wrong. And the one thing about that conversation that maybe I did think about was I asked the question and I wondered when Derrick Rose started in the preseason that are we looking at the fifth starter all wrong? Is it actually going to be a ball handler? Like it's not Zaire or Roddy or Kennard. Turns out, all right, maybe what we need is a point guard in the starting lineup to be that fifth player. It's not Derrick Rose because Derrick Rose is still injured, but Jacob Gilyard stepped up and was the answer for the Grizzlies. And it makes a little bit more sense because once Ja Morant comes back, all right, now Marcus Smart is already playing his natural position. So I thought that was super interesting. But anyways, let's get into the juiciness of the Friday night disappointment before we get maybe the ecstasy of actually winning a basketball game on Sunday. So the loss to the Jazz. We'll start, I guess, with Taylor Jenkins' post-game comments. Here they are.
Saddle up. One of the most poorly officiated games I've ever seen. Record it. I'm fine with it.
atrocious. Jaren Jackson plays 23 minutes and is in the paint all night. He's one of the most professional players in this league. And he gets a double technical foul. And the excuse I get is that he's charging at an official. It's called de-escalation. 29 free throws to 13. And I'm not that coach. You can go back in the history. I've done this one other time. Our team is competing their asses off. Competing their asses off. And this is what happens. The interactions right now with the officials, complete disrespect. I know what's coming. It's unbelievable the looks on the faces when I'm trying to engage in conversation to defend our guys that are busting their tail right now. Busting their tail. And Jaren Jackson's one of the most professional guys. And if you go watch the play, 2 possessions in a row, he gets hacked underneath the basket, 0 free throw attempts. I'm not trying to put a name on a jersey and this guy should earn these fouls and all that stuff. Watch the game. 29 free throws to basically like there was 7. And then at the end of the game, a few more added. I don't understand it when guys are competing their tails off. And we got stuff we can clean up. Sometimes we're grabbing, we're holding, and one's like, oh man, here. In the heat of the battle, when conversations are trying to be had, notice is trying to be made on things that are happening, and there's not the enforcement of it. It blows my mind. What are we doing here? What are we doing? Our guys are competing their tails off. We got to play better. We got to coach better. We got to play better. But I don't get tonight whatsoever. Again, I'm going to go back to the interactions. Stern. Nothing. Stonewall. Ignoring. And then you wonder why our guys are trying to compete. I don't get it.
So obviously Taylor Jenkins was enraged by the officiating. I think it was clear and obvious that one call that set everything off that caused Jaren to get ejected. That was, of course, an incorrect call. I was having a watch party in Nashville, so I'm watching this game live, and, you know, it's obviously a frustrating game, and you see the play, and it had been building up, and when I rewatched the game, you could see this build up actually well before the play, because like there were missed calls throughout this game. Like early in the game, Jaren was, I think, clearly fouled by Lauri Markkanen when he was driving towards the basket. He got undercut. There was no call. There was a bunch of other calls that were like highly questionable. Some of them were kind of iffy calls. I know with like the losing and the fact that like the Jazz went on this huge run in the second quarter, like that causes the frustration to build up. And of course, the Grizzlies have been at a disadvantage from the foul line, basically in every single game. Jaren himself maybe doesn't get to the foul line as much as he thinks he should, as much as we as a fan base thinks he should. I've talked about it before on this show. I feel like sometimes Jaren doesn't get foul calls because he looks kind of awkward. His moves are goofy, for lack of a better word, sometimes. And so maybe that is a reason he doesn't get as many foul calls as he feels like he deserves. But there were some questionable calls throughout this game. And then you had like the play that was challenged where Bismack Biyombo got dunked on by John Collins. And I'm still questioning like how that ended up that way. Like I'm really into NBA rules. And one thing that I find especially interesting is when they go back and review a play and then I don't agree with the call, because my thought is, all right, calls are missed all the time. In the split second reaction, like in time when it's happening right in front of the refs. So sure, calls are going to be missed constantly. There's no way to avoid that. It's a fast moving game with these super athletes. But when they go back and review it, when they look at it in slow motion, when they have Secaucus on the headset and those people are advising on the rules and they make a ruling that I disagree with, that just makes me think, wait a minute, are the NBA rules just super weird? And this is one of those instances where I'm assuming, and maybe I'm wrong, but I'm assuming because they reviewed it, that's the way the rule book is written. And to best explain it to you, if you're still like stunned how that could possibly be a foul on Bismack Biyombo and not on John Collins, a lot of NBA rules regarding the defender have to do like jumping from point A to point B. That's the part of verticality where you have to jump straight up and down. If you jump from one spot and land in another spot, that frequently will be a foul on the defense. And they're saying Bismack Biyombo, the first point of contact was Bismack jumping from point A backwards into point B, which was John Collins. I look at the play and I'm thinking, well, first of all, Bismack is just trying to jump and catch a pass, which is over his head. But then once Collins catches it, Collins puts him in a headlock, uses his off arm to leverage himself higher. Like John Collins, I don't think can complete that dunk the way he did it without pushing off of Bismack Biyombo. So I'm like, surely that supersedes it. But I guess, again, the way the rule book must be written is as long as the foul after the initial foul, so they're saying Bismack is the first contact, that's the foul. As long as what John Collins doesn't do is a flagrant foul, the foul is on the first offender. The foul's on Bismack Biyombo. Like my thought would be like, all right, maybe a double foul. If you're saying Bismack Biyombo did commit a foul, but John Collins should not be allowed to push himself up higher in the air by pushing off of Bismack's shoulders and head to dunk. That part doesn't seem right to me. I don't know if the officials could look at that and say like, all right, maybe we didn't rule that right. But anyways, that's another thing that contributed to the frustrations. There also was a couple of fouls on Marcus Smart. Now I'm going to get to Marcus Smart's foul out. That's its own thing. But like Marcus Smart had a play earlier in the game where he got called for a foul on Lauri Markkanen, where it looked like Lauri Markkanen basically elbowed Marcus Smart in the face. And again, that one was a thing where Marcus did grab Markkanen, but it wasn't that much. Maybe it was incidental. There wasn't going to be a call, but then Marcus reacts greatly to the elbow. He forces the ref to call something. And a lot of the times, when you force a referee to call something, you might not like what he calls. But that, again, that play seemed like it was incorrect. So there were these missed calls. And then with, I think, 4 minutes and 55 seconds left in the third quarter, Jaren gets called for we'll call it a marginal shooting foul on Jordan Clarkson. And this is, again, where the Grizzlies have only been called for, or the Jazz have only been called for, I think, 2 fouls at this point in the entire game. So there's not been a lot of fouls called on the Jazz. Some of that, by the way, we point to these stats and we say, look, they haven't called any fouls on the Jazz. Well, the Jazz are terrible at defense, guys. There's no fouls on the Jazz because the Jazz aren't guarding anybody. Also, we shoot three-pointers. So, like, there is some leeway. It's not that all the calls are getting missed or anything. But there was this foul call on Jaren. He gets upset, and you can see on the replay, or when I rewatch the game, I can see like Desmond Bane is like talking to Jaren, telling him to kind of like settle down, don't worry about it, don't yell at the refs. So this is 4:45 left in the third quarter. Immediately after this comes the sequence where there's one possession where Jaren and our coaching staff feels like Kelly Olynyk fouled Jaren. No call. Then it goes down to the other end. We get a block. It comes back down. And then that is the missed call on John Collins where there's no foul call. And that sets off Jaren Jackson Jr. getting a double technical and getting ejected. Taylor Jenkins gets a technical. I mean, it's 100% a blown call. And as far as blown calls go, it's a pretty bad one. I mean, one, because it was totally obvious, clear as day in live action. I could see it at a restaurant surrounded by other Grizzlies fans, like watching it on a TV on the screen. I'm like, that was what in the world? Like, that was such an obvious foul. I have no idea how the officials missed that, and they don't call it. So then you get that. So that should have been a free throw opportunity for Jaren. That's basically, a point lost right there. And then you flip it to now 3 technical fouls called on the Grizzlies. Jordan Clarkson makes all 3 free throws. So that's basically like a 4-point swing. And oh, by the way, Jaren Jackson Jr. is ejected. Basically your best player or one of your 2 best players is gone. So like that was absolutely like a huge blown call. Now, Grizzlies fans, I think we kept getting angry, and obviously Taylor Jenkins kept getting angry because of some other calls. And I'm telling you, if you're super mad at me that I don't get mad at the refs more, you're going to hate this part of the show. Like the other calls, they were iffy, but like not wrong. The foul on Roddy, which this came where Roddy was driving towards the basket, and it would have been a go-ahead bucket. And they called an offensive foul on him. From live action, from the perspective the referee called it, looked like an offensive foul. When I saw it on TV in real time, Thought that was an offensive foul. When I see the replay, and yeah, Roddy does not extend his arm. He still, I think, displaces Clarkson with his shoulder. That's a pretty typical, common NBA foul call. If the Grizzlies could have challenged it, would it have gotten overturned? I don't actually think so, but I'd be curious to see. Like, it's a frustrating call. I'm sympathetic. I was upset by it, but like, that felt like a normal foul call. Now, Marcus Smart's 6th foul. This was a huge play in the game. So I haven't really talked about the actual game. I'm talking about the referees. That's what you guys want, right? The Grizzlies fell down pretty big. After the Jaren Jackson Jr. ejection in the third quarter, they got down by 20 or 21. They actually get back in the game. Like early in the fourth quarter, this is a close game. They erased the lead totally. And so now we have a close game the whole fourth quarter. Marcus Smart fouls out on a 6th foul call that most people on my timeline and most people who I've talked to were really mad about. All right, first thing. The call was correct. Everyone's like, no, you're wrong, Keith. That's boxing out. All right, guys. I think you'll enjoy watching the NBA a little bit more if you recognize that that is a correct call. First of all, box out, not in the NBA rulebook. You can't displace a guy by moving backwards. And more so, you can't displace someone by bending over at the waist and like backing your butt up into them and undercutting them. Now, there are plenty of rebounds where like you sort of displace a guy, but you have to be straight up. And maybe Marcus Smart felt contact of Lauri Markkanen coming over his back. By the way, over the back, not in any rule book at any level. This is giving me flashbacks to when I was a high school referee in Tennessee and people would just constantly scream, he's over the back, over the back. Like, all right, if you make contact, it's a foul, but if you don't make contact, you're good. But I think Marcus Smart felt Lauri Markkanen on his back, thought like there was some contact on his hands. So then Marcus Smart does what Marcus Smart does. He bends over, backs into Lauri Markkanen, forcing the referee to make a call. Now, I hated this play. This play was a huge negative play for the Grizzlies. And you may not agree with me that that's a foul, but I'm telling you, based on my understanding of NBA rules, that 100% was a correct foul call on Marcus Smart. I've been wrong before about NBA rules interpretations, but I'm pretty sure that was a foul. Even if I'm wrong, even if that should have been a foul call on Lauri Markkanen. Here's the thing. Desmond Bane had the rebound. We did not need that play. We had just tied the game. The crowd was going nuts. If you believe in momentum, the Grizzlies had momentum. They force a miss. Desmond Bane is getting the rebound. Meanwhile, Marcus Smart with 5 fouls forces the referee to call something. If you force the referee to call something, guess what? Sometimes it's not going to go your way. The Jazz were in the bonus. Marcus had 5 fouls, and he thought it was a good time to play referee roulette and say, hey, maybe I won't foul out. Maybe I won't send Lauri Markkanen to the line to stop our run. How about I accentuate this contact and have Markkanen fall on my back? We had the rebound. We did not need Marcus Smart to do that. That play was a huge play in the loss, and you're never going to hear Coach Jenkins yell about that play. That play was a bad play by Marcus Smart. For me, it was a clear and obvious foul on Marcus Smart, but also situationally, you have 5 fouls. We don't want you to foul out. We want the ball. Desmond Bane had already secured the rebound, and now you send Lauri Markkanen to the line. Markkanen makes it. Grizzlies lose the game. I mean, Grizzlies had opportunities. They had a couple of shots. Gilyard had a chance to put him ahead in the final minutes on a 3. Roddy had a chance to put him ahead. I mean, Bane had his shot blocked at the rim a couple of times by John Collins. It was a wild, entertaining game unless you were on the losing end, which the Grizzlies were. So, tough game. Now we've gotten to erase it from our minds. We don't have to worry about the officiating anymore. I acknowledged it. I gave my opinion. Feel free, as always, in the comments to disagree with me. Desmond Bane in the game had 37 points, had 8 assists. He made 7 threes. I mean, Bane's doing everything you could possibly hope for. I mean, Bane gave you everything in that game. Jaren, because of getting ejected, he ended up losing his consecutive game streak of having a blocked shot. That ended at 21 games, the second longest streak of his career. Had 14 points, 4 rebounds, and 2 assists. That did keep a streak going of having 12 straight regular season games with at least 2 assists. Spoiler, that streak gets snapped against the Clippers. But before all the officiating malfeasance, before the ejections, before losing this game in kind of heartbreaking fashion down the stretch, honestly, I was a little bit dismayed with my Grizzlies season in the first quarter of this game. And this goes back to the thing I started the show with, that Jacob Gilyard was starting. Not that Jacob Gilyard hasn't played well. And also the fact that Bismack Biyombo was starting. And guys, Bismack Biyombo has played well. He has been like the biggest possible X factor in the Grizzlies' 2 wins this season. But I found myself distraught at this Nashville Grizzlies watch party in the first quarter against the Jazz, just looking at our roster and being like, all right, we have Marcus Smart, Desmond Bane, and Jaren Jackson Jr. Those are our 3 good players. And we have determined that our best chance of winning is surrounding those 3 guys with 2 players who were not on our main roster as far as the 15 guaranteed salaries on opening night. None of our other guaranteed contract guys from opening night are our best answer. Our best answer, a 2-way guy who, as of a week ago, his career high for made field goals in a game was 1. And Bismack Biyombo, a free agent who was not on an NBA roster when the season began. So I was a little bit dismayed and distraught with, like, guys, we're making shots in the first quarter against the Jazz. Like, we're making shots against the Jazz, a team that's terrible. The Jazz, when they're not playing the Grizzlies, are 1-7 and have been outscored by 107 points. So in that first quarter against the Jazz, I was dismayed. I was like, none of our guys are good enough. Like Zaire Zaire was out with injury, but I was like, Zaire Williams, not good enough. Xavier Tillman out with injury. The Xavier Tillman injury escapade, what's going on? I know we ask these questions a lot. Xavier Tillman was listed as a starter against the Trailblazers, was a late scratch, while all of a sudden surprised Bismack Biyombo starting. 4 minutes into the game, they're like, oh, Xavier Tillman's out for this game. He was out for that game with knee soreness. It's been a week now. A week later, he's now still out because he's returning from left or knee injury. He went from out with soreness to knee injury recovery. But anyways, I'm looking up and down our roster, and even when I talk about the Grizzlies players who I think are good, or other Grizzlies analysts or fans, we list off like, oh, Kennard and Aldama and Tillman. But like, when we say those guys are good, we don't mean they're top like 150 best players in the NBA good. I think we mean they're the only guys on our team who would probably play in the rotation of every other team. They might be the only guys on the team that are going to sign another NBA contract when this current contract is up. Like, all right, maybe Zaire's not going to be out of the league. Maybe David Roddy's not going to be out of the league. But like, would you be stunned if in 3 or 4 years those guys don't have an NBA contract? I would not be stunned. How many of the Grizzlies players, if they got waived, would 1 get claimed and 2 would be on a roster within a day? The number's not that high. And so I was distraught. Yes, Gilyard's played well. Yes, we can be excited that, with Gilyard and Biyombo, the Grizzlies look like themselves. I don't know if that's true, first of all, but I still go back to being distraught that all right, I mean, obviously Ja's gone and Steven Adams, one of our, our starters is gone, and Brandon Clark, one of our 7 best players, is gone. But I'm still kind of upset that, oh man, Conchar, Laravia, Roddy, Kenneth Lofton Jr., all these guys on guaranteed deals, when it's they're not actually better than their opponents. And so, I don't know. I've lost my hope basically for this season. Hopefully the win over the Clippers can be a launch pad to how things can improve. Couple more things about the Jazz loss before we get to the fun of the Clippers win. I thought it was really weird that Santi Aldama only played 13 minutes. I rewatched the game. I texted some people to be like, hey, what did I miss? Why did he play so few minutes? He only played 3 minutes in the second quarter. The second quarter was horrible. I mean, the second quarter, the Grizzlies just got blitzed and fell down big. They did not play Jaren and Santi together at all in the game against the Jazz. And this is weird to me because I feel like going into the year, we thought a strength is going to be Santi and Jaren playing together. They haven't played really enough possessions together where we should even acknowledge the net rating, but like, it's good. It's still good this year in the small number of possessions they played together. It, of course, was great last year. I'm surprised in games where Xavier Tillman is unavailable, we're not playing Santi Aldama and Jaren Jackson Jr. together. So I think that's just maybe something to monitor, something to keep our eye on. Marcus Smart struggled in the game against the Jazz. Not only did he foul out, he missed a lot of shots. He had a 4-game stretch that was snapped by the Clippers game where he only made 2 out of 17 3-point attempts. Bismack Biyombo, huge game from him. 15 points and 15 rebounds, made 5 out of 6 free throws in the Friday night loss to the Jazz. Impressive stuff. Jacob Gilyard, 14 points, by the way, in that start. 14 points, career high. Again, his previous career high was 6 set the game before. He had 14 points, also had a career high 8 assists, career high 4 made threes, career high 9 attempted threes. Gilyard was huge in the game, also had a steal. Luke Kennard has found his shooting stroke once again. He scored 14 on Friday night, made 4 3-pointers. Kenneth Lofton Jr. played. His minutes were largely positive as far as like team result. He was a team best plus 11, but he did not score. He got 2 rebounds. Roddy played the entire fourth quarter basically, and randomly John Contra played the entire second quarter. Adventures in the rotation, I guess, there. Roddy, he made a big 3, but he also missed a bunch of other open threes. That went back to the question kind of like of why Aldama wasn't playing. Maybe I would have preferred him shooting those shots, but Roddy's effort level, and then he showed it in the Clippers game. He was great in the Clippers game. He, to borrow a Taylor Jenkins phrase, played with a great force, I felt like, in the Clippers game. Wrapping up the Jazz game, the Jazz were 27 for 29 from the foul line. And again, that goes to the Grizzlies only taking 13 free throws, one of the huge frustrations, and points of anger for Taylor Jenkins. The Grizzlies attempted 25 more field goal attempts than the Jazz as they really attacked the offensive glass. I mean, the Grizzlies made 19 3-pointers, still couldn't find a way to win. But now, let's get to the Clippers game, and we will do that right after this short break. All right, so with the Grizzlies falling to 1-8 after that Jazz loss, and then them heading out on a road trip, I mean, things obviously dire. You got your back against the wall, and the Grizzlies responded well by getting this just massive win over the Clippers. The Clippers now winless with James Harden in the lineup. They're 0-4 with Harden, but the Grizzlies got off to a great start. They actually made 7 of 9 3-point attempts in the first quarter. They had a 12-0 run where, once again, Jacob Gilyard making 3-pointers. He had 2 threes in this 12-0 run. Marcus Smart made a 3. That put the Grizzlies up 19-7. By the way, so Jacob Gilyard's numbers, again, he's like fitting in perfectly. He's just providing some stability as a ball handler, some creation for his teammates by being able to penetrate, swing the ball, get it open. Just normal point guard things. Things that you maybe overlook sometimes in your roster building, like, hey, what if we just had a point guard to get our good players going? So that's working. But another element that's making the Jacob Gilyard minutes a success is he's hitting his 3-pointers. So he makes 2 threes in this run. Those are the only 2 threes he made in the entire game against the Clippers. But 4 threes against the Jazz, 2 threes the game before. So he's made 8 3-pointers in his last 3 games. He's 8 out of 18 in the last 3 games from the 3-point line. I don't think in all of Summer League he might have made 8 3-pointers total in all of Summer League this year. So I've been surprised by him knocking down these 3-pointers. And so the caveat, or like the flip side to that, is if those threes don't go in, all of a sudden maybe things don't look as peachy. So hopefully he keeps hitting the threes. I heard for the Hustle last year, he basically was a 40% 3-point shooter. So maybe this is who he is, and he can keep contributing in that positive fashion. But right now, maybe there's some 3-point shooting luck affecting how good things are going with Jacob Gilyard. But the team itself, the Grizzlies, made threes in the first quarter. We're up 33-20 at the end of the first. Then the second quarter happened, unfortunately, and we had one of those massive, huge lulls again. The Grizzlies go on to miss 12 straight. No, they go 1 out of 17 in their first 17 3-pointers attempted in the second quarter. They end up making their last one. They took 18 threes in the second quarter. That's madness. I don't know how to look it up. Like, I don't know how to search right now for, 3-point attempts per quarter in Grizzlies franchise history, but that number feels high. Also, missing 17 3-pointers in a quarter. I'm going to go ahead and gamble that's the most 3-pointers in a quarter the Grizzlies have ever missed. But the Grizzlies score 3 points in the first 6 minutes and 30 seconds of the second quarter. The only 3 points are a Luke Kennard 3-pointer off of a broken play, and all of a sudden the Clippers get back into it. And these might have coincided with our guy Zaire Williams' minutes on the court. Poor Zaire. So Zaire's healthy. He's now not starting. He's part of a bench unit. He does not score in this game. The Zaire minutes aren't going super great. For the season, by the way, the offensive rating when he's on the court is terrible. His assist percentage is just in the 7th percentile for wings, according to Cleaning the Glass. This is somebody who was like a great ball handler and a great setup man in the preseason. We're not seeing any of that. His turnover percentage is super high. Only trails Marcus Smart on the team. By the way, Marcus Smart averaging 3.7 turnovers per game, one of the highest marks in the NBA. So Zaire's minutes did not go super good. But then third quarter into the first half and then start of the third quarter, the Grizzlies build their lead back up. They're ahead by 15 into the third quarter. They're up by 14 in the fourth quarter. And then, oh no, the lead totally evaporates. During some of that, you saw maybe the drawback to Bismack. I mean, Bismack was a monster. Bismack, I need to say first, was a huge impact on this game in clutch time. His rim protection and rebounding was the reason, basically, I think they pulled it out in the final 2 minutes. But before then, you saw maybe the drawback to Bismack. Like the Clippers were getting him involved in pick and rolls and then like getting him switched out onto Paul George, and then just Paul George just rising up and scoring over him. I mean, that's Paul George. He's amazing. So not much you can do there. But the Grizzlies, they fought, they scratched it out. Roddy, like I said, played with force. Roddy with a bunch of offensive rebounds. The Grizzlies get a bunch of second chance points in this one. That's something I've been highlighting since the first preseason game as a weakness. Not today or not on Sunday. The Grizzlies had 23 second chance points. Roddy had 4 offensive rebounds, also finished with 8 points. So he did a nice job in his minutes. And then down the stretch, I don't know if you want to hear this, referee haters. We got a huge incorrect call in our favor. I mean, the last 2-minute report doesn't come out for a few more hours, but with 28 seconds left, Desmond Bane lost the ball out of bounds, and this one referee, who's a rookie referee, or he's basically a rookie, he's done like 50 total games, I think, in his NBA career. He missed a call. He also is the one who called, he stopped the game for a flopping tech on Marcus Smart while the Grizzlies had like a 4-on-3 and we're about to get like a really good look at the basket. And he stopped the game there, and that made Taylor Jenkins very, very, very angry. He also, by the way, called 2 flopping techs. So I do like that. Keep it up, young guy. But then he called Desmond Bane for the offensive foul that was overturned by a Grizzlies challenge. The Clippers actually challenged 2 calls and got them both overturned in this game. So the Clippers were out of challenges, a similar situation that the Grizzlies have faced. The Clippers had 2 successful challenges, thus could not challenge this incorrect out of bounds call, which gave the Grizzlies the ball up 3 with like 27 seconds left. It should have been Clippers ball. So, hey, we got a little break there. Got a little break. Maybe we were due. We were due. But anyways, then the Grizzlies make enough free throws to get the victory. Jaren had a very bad shooting game, but made the final 2 free throws, ended up 6 out of 6 from the line. Jaren finished this game 3 out of 15 from the field. Another quite terrible road shooting performance for Jaren Jackson Jr. Just filing that away. Something to keep my eye on. Bane had 27 points, had 6 assists. A uncharacteristic 2 free throw misses for Desmond Bane. He was 4 out of 6 from the line, only made 3 out of 11 threes. But again, Bane has been amazing this whole season. He is currently 13th in the NBA in points per game, averaging over 26 points per game. He is, by the way, 12th in steals per game. Good job, Desmond Bane. Marcus Smart is 5th in steals per game. He's just let up a tiny bit, lost his spot at the top of the league in steals per game. Bismack in this game, by the way, 13 points, 12 rebounds, 3 assists, a steal, and 2 blocks. We will forgive a couple of missed free throws from Bismack. Bismack has been amazing the last 2 games, basically averaging 14 and 14 the last 2 games. So, I mean, great job, front office, having Bismack Biyombo be available for you and bringing him in. And of course, reminder, as if you've forgotten, once Ja Morant comes back, they got to get rid of somebody. And I mean, the idea is it's not supposed to be Derrick Rose because Derrick Rose is here to help Ja Morant. But like, obviously, I would pick Derrick Rose. If it's not him, it's probably going to be Kenneth Lofton Jr. Who gets waived. And, you know, the other guys, Conchar, again, has $18 million or $19 million guaranteed over the next 3 seasons after this one. Laravia has money guaranteed for next year. I don't know what you do. And the whole consolidation trade of trading 2 players for 1, nobody wants our players. First of all, there aren't teams out there with extra roster spaces, and those that have roster spaces, they don't want our players. So some is going to happen because it looks like they definitely are going to have to keep Bismack Biyombo with the impact he's making. Marcus Smart, again, like I said, snapped his cold 3-point shooting kind of run he was on. He made 3 out of 7 threes, had 17 points, had 7 assists. Also had one of the best passes I've ever seen in my entire life. In a close game in the final couple minutes, he dives on the floor. He thinks he got fouled. He got fouled, but like, all right, Kawhi knocked it away. He dives on the floor for the loose ball and then somehow palms it and flips it to Roddy, who's cutting in from the wing for a layup. I've got pretty big hands. I can palm a basketball. I can't at all do what Marcus Smart did, which is like he picked it up like it was a softball, like just on the top of it and then just flipped it. An incredible hustle play by the reigning 2-time or the current reigning 2-time Hustle Award winner in the NBA. That was a huge play down the stretch from Marcus Smart. Gilyard, 6 points, 5 rebounds. That's career high. Tied his career high with 3 steals, 3 assists. Gilyard keeps making very, very positive contributions. Luke Kennard, playing his former team, made 4 out of 5 3-pointers. By the way, Luke Kennard's last 4 games, he's made 4 threes, 3 threes, 4 threes, 4 threes. He's 15 out of 26 over that 4-game span. You remember when Luke missed his first 11 threes of the season? Well, guess what? His 3-point percentage for the season is already up to 40%. He's already shooting 40% from 3. He's played in like 7 games, and he missed his first 11 3-point attempts. He can shoot the basketball. So Luke Kennard made a bunch of good shots. Santi Aldama had 9 points, 3 boards, 2 steals, played 21 minutes, so a few more minutes. I'm still confused. I mean, still a little bit confused about the Aldama usage. I feel like there's some more minutes where he could be playing alongside Jaren, and we just haven't seen it. And maybe that's something we'll see more of in coming games. Conchar played 5 minutes, got a couple of rebounds, got a couple of fouls. Roddy, again, was tasked or was trusted with playing the most minutes off the bench, and in a very, very good game from David Roddy, helping the Grizzlies get this win. By the way, in the win, the Grizzlies took 41 3-pointers. They had 18 in the second quarter, which is madness. They had 27 attempts in the first half. They finished with 41. They are still fifth in the NBA in 3-pointers attempted per game. They are still sixth from the bottom, 25th in 3-point percentage. Like, great win, important win. You had to win a basketball game. I don't think anything is fixed. Sorry. I think maybe finding out that, all right, we got to play Jacob Gilyard, that's good. Maybe that's a solution. But, like, I don't think anything is super fixed about this Grizzlies team. They are defending okay, but the offense is still quite broken. Like, the streak of not scoring more than 115, they did that against the Jazz. They had 121 against the Jazz, their first time over 120 points, but, they gave up 127. It wasn't the officials' fault that the Jazz had, what do they have, 76 points? They had some huge number. I don't have it right in front of me, and I'm not looking it up. But they had 70-something points in the first half because the Grizzlies' defense was terrible. And yes, there's the shooting, the three-point shooting abnormalities. The Jazz's two best three-point shooting performances of the season, both of them against the Grizzlies. Maybe there's bad luck there, but we're getting torched from the three-point line. Our own offense is still extremely three-point heavy, and I still don't trust necessarily most of the guys we have shooting these three-pointers, and I still think it's going to be super rocky, super bumpy road. But hopefully they can build off this win over the Clippers. They play the Lakers, a team also looking pretty bad. The Lakers are struggling a lot. They'll play the Lakers on Tuesday night, then they have to play Wembanyama. They got to play the Celtics coming up. The schedule's hard. Mavericks, Suns, a lot of hard games coming up, but hopefully this team can gel and get a couple bounces that will go their way, and we can build from there. But anyways, thanks for listening to this episode. If you want to support the creation of these episodes, please join my Patreon, patreon.com/fastbreakbreakfast. If you support me over there, you get access to my Slack channel. You can come join the Grits and Grinds Slack channel. You get access to exclusive bonus content over at Patreon. So support this show if you like it, if you're a regular viewer or listener at patreon.com/fastbreakbreakfast. Use that promo code FBBF when signing up for Underdog Fantasy. All right, hope you guys have a great Monday. I will talk to you soon. Go Grizz.